I stood in the marble-floored bank lobby, staring at my phone, unable to process the number on the screen. $12.47. 3 days ago, it had been $178,643.92. 15 years of brutal work hours, sacrificed vacations, and disciplined investing. Gone. My throat tightened as I looked across the lobby at Emma, my wife of 8 years. She was leaning over a desk, talking to the bank manager. Her makeup was smeared from crying, her hands trembling as she gestured desperately. When she caught me watching her, she quickly looked away, guilt written across her face. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but I knew instantly who it was from. "Thanks for the loan, man. Emma really came through. Sorry about your house dreams. Ryan, my wife's ex-boyfriend. A man I'd never met but who had just stolen my entire life's savings." I walked out of the bank without saying a word to Emma. She called my name, her voice breaking, but I kept walking. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, trying to understand how the woman I trusted most in the world could have betrayed me so completely. Growing up, I watched my mother count pennies at the grocery store, choosing between toilet paper and fresh vegetables some weeks. Our tiny 2-bedroom apartment always smelled of mildew, no matter how much bleach she used. When the heater broke in winter, we wore coats indoors for 2 weeks until she could afford the repair. "This is temporary," she'd always say. "You'll have better, Mark. You'll see." I started working at 19, taking night classes for accounting while spending my days at a construction site. The work was exhausting, but every paycheck meant something. I'd divide it carefully. Rent, food, tuition, and savings, always savings. No matter how small, a portion went into that account. I met Emma when I was 22. She was in nursing school, working nights at a care facility. We bonded over cheap coffee and shared dreams of stability. "My parents were always one emergency away from disaster," she told me on our 3rd date. "Dad would get paid on Friday and somehow be broke by Monday. Mom would hide money in hollowed-out books, but he always found it." "That must have been scary," I said. "It was. I promised myself I'd never live that way." Her eyes were fierce, determined. "I want security more than anything." I fell in love with her that night. By 30, I'd worked my way up to senior accountant at a respected firm. We had a comfortable apartment, decent cars, and most importantly, a growing savings account. We'd set a goal: $200,000 for a down payment on a house in the suburbs, a place with a yard, maybe room for kids someday. "Look at this," I said one night, showing Emma my account balance after a particularly good bonus. We'd just crossed $100,000. Her eyes widened. "That's incredible, Mark." There was something in her voice. Awe, but also something else I couldn't identify. "We're halfway to our dream house," I said, pulling her close. She nodded against my chest. "You've worked so hard." I didn't notice she said you instead of we. On my 37th birthday, just 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Emma surprised me with a chocolate cake decorated with a tiny model house on top. "Next year, we'll be celebrating in our own place," she said, her smile bright as she handed me a fork. That night we scrolled through real estate listings online, pointing out features we loved: bay windows, a fireplace, a kitchen island. "This is really happening," I said, amazed at how close we were to our goal. Emma squeezed my hand, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Looking back, there were signs I missed. Emma maintained her separate checking account even after we married. "For emergencies," she said. And it made sense at the time. Her parents' financial irresponsibility had left deep scars. There were phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. "Just work stuff," she'd say, but her cheeks would flush slightly. And there was the name Ryan that occasionally popped up in conversations with mutual friends. Each time, Emma would smoothly change the subject. but not before a flash of something. Discomfort? Guilt? Crossed her face. It wasn't until after everything happened that Sarah, Emma's closest friend, filled in the blanks for me. Ryan and Emma were together for 3 years before you, Sarah told me over coffee, her expression sympathetic but uncomfortable. It was intense. He was this charismatic entrepreneur type, always with big plans and bigger promises. She told me they dated briefly, I said. Sarah shook her head. It was serious. She even moved in with him, but he had gambling problems. She bailed him out multiple times before finally leaving. I remembered the Facebook friend request I'd received months earlier from someone named Ryan Taylor. I'd ignored it, thinking it was just some random connection. The first concrete sign of trouble came when I noticed Emma checking her phone more frequently, always angling it away from me. Then came the unexplained absences. Just an hour here, 2 hours there, always with plausible explanations that didn't quite add up. One night I found a credit card statement showing a coffee shop purchase at a time when Emma claimed to be working. Another evening, I caught her in our home office, hurriedly closing browser tabs showing our financial documents. The night I woke to find her side of the bed empty at 2 a.m. was when real concern set in. I found her in the living room, quickly ending a phone call. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, squinting in the dim light. "Julie from work. She's freaking out about a patient and needed advice." Her hands trembled slightly as she set her phone down. The next day, I checked our joint savings account online and noticed Emma had viewed the account details multiple times in the past week, unusual for her, since I handled most of our finances. Worry twisted in my gut. Was she planning to leave me? I scheduled a meeting with a real estate agent, thinking perhaps accelerating our house buying plans might help reconnect us. Over the next few weeks, Emma began taking extra shifts at the hospital, even offering to work holidays, which was unlike her. When I suggested we take our long-planned vacation to Maine, she made excuses about work commitments. One evening, I came home early and overheard her on the phone in our bedroom. "I can get it, but I need more time. He checks the account every day." My blood ran cold. When I pushed the door open, she ended the call immediately. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, you startled me." Her smile was too bright. "I was talking about your mom's birthday present. I want to get her something special, but I know you track our expenses." It was a plausible explanation, but something felt off. The next day, my best friend Tony suggested Emma might be having an affair. I dismissed the idea immediately, but couldn't shake my unease. That evening, I checked our account again and saw a small withdrawal of $200 that Emma couldn't explain when asked. "Probably just a mistake," she said, avoiding my eyes. "I'll look into it." 2 days later, I decided to surprise Emma at work, bringing lunch. The receptionist gave me a puzzled look. "Emma called in sick today?" she said. "Didn't she tell you?" My stomach dropped. I called Emma, and she answered with hospital sounds in the background, clearly faked. "Hey, what's up?" Her voice was artificially cheerful. "Just checking in," I said, watching the hospital entrance from my car. "Busy day?" "Super busy. 2 emergency admissions this morning." I hung up and sat in the parking lot for an hour, feeling my world beginning to crumble. That night, while Emma was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched through her belongings. In her winter boots, pushed to the back of our closet, I found a burner phone. My hands shook as I unlocked it. No password, thankfully, and scrolled through text messages, all from someone saved simply as R. "Need to see you tomorrow. Same place, 2 p.m. Can you get more? Time's running out. If you ever loved me, you'll help me this one last time. These guys will break more than my legs if I don't pay." When Emma came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, I was sitting on the bed with the phone in my hand. Her face drained of color. "Mark, I can explain," she whispered. "I think you'd better—" She sank down on the edge of the bed, clutching her towel like a shield. Ryan reached out to me 2 months ago. He's in trouble, serious trouble. He owes money to some dangerous people. Your ex-boyfriend, Ryan, the one you told me you briefly dated? She flinched. Yes, he sent me pictures of his beaten face, Mark. Said they'd kill him if he didn't pay soon. I've been giving him small amounts from my personal account to help him get back on his feet. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid you wouldn't understand, that you'd think there were still feelings there. Are there? No, God, no, I know what it's like to be desperate about money, to be scared. I couldn't just ignore him. I held up the phone. This isn't not ignoring him, Emma. This is an ongoing secret relationship. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It's not like that. I swear I was just trying to help him get out of danger, and then I was going to cut him off for good. Have you touched our savings? I asked, the most important question. No, never. Just small amounts from my account, that's it. Looking into her pleading eyes, I made a crucial mistake. I chose to believe her. Block his number, I said. No more contact with him, promise me. I promise, she said, taking my hands in hers. It's over. 3 days later, my world imploded. The call came at 11:23 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was in a meeting when my phone lit up with my bank's number. Mr. Sullivan, said a serious voice when I stepped out to answer. There's been some unusual activity on your joint savings account. Are you currently making large transfers? My heart stopped. No. What kind of transfers? The entire balance was withdrawn this morning at 9:47 a.m. I'm looking at the transaction now. $178,643.92 transferred to an external account. The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. That's not possible. I didn't authorize that. It appears the transfer was initiated through online banking using correct login credentials and authentication codes. Since it's a joint account with your wife, either of you can... I hung up and immediately called Emma. No answer. I tried again, and again, nothing. I left the office without explanation and drove to the hospital, running through the halls until I reached the nurses' station in Emma's unit. Is Emma working today? I asked, breathless. The charge nurse frowned. She called in sick again. Is everything okay? Everything was falling into place with sickening clarity. I drove home, praying I was wrong, that there was some explanation. In our bedroom, I found drawers partially open, some of Emma's clothes missing. She'd taken her passport from our safe. My phone rang. Emma's number. Where is it? I answered, my voice a shaking whisper. Mark, I'm so sorry. I can explain. Ryan. Where is my money, Emma? I roared, something breaking loose inside me. She was crying, her words tumbling out between sobs. Ryan showed me proof that these loan sharks were going to kill him. He promised, he swore, he'd return all the money within 24 hours once he paid them off. He said they'd give him access to his business accounts again once he made the payment. You transferred our entire savings? Everything we've worked for. He promised it would come back with interest. I was trying to protect him, and you too, Mark. He said these people would come after anyone connected to him if he didn't pay. I felt physically ill. Where are you now? At the bank. I'm trying to stop the transfer, but they're saying it's too late. It's already gone through multiple accounts. And that's how I ended up standing in that marble-floored bank lobby, staring at my empty account balance while my wife sobbed across the room. The police were sympathetic, but not optimistic. Since she was an authorized user on the account, technically no crime has been committed against you, Officer Reynolds explained gently. It's your wife who's been defrauded by this Ryan Taylor. So that's it? 15 years of my life just... gone? We'll do everything we can to find him. But these scammers are good at disappearing. Does she have any idea where he might have gone? I laughed bitterly. She claims she was just trying to save his life. So, no, she doesn't know he was planning to run. I changed the locks on our apartment and stayed with Tony for a few days. Emma called and texted constantly, oscillating between desperate apologies and promises to make things right. I blocked her number. Through connections at my accounting firm, I hired a private investigator named Malone to track down Ryan. He discovered what I already suspected. Ryan had a history of similar scams, targeting women he'd previously dated. There was even a warrant out for his arrest in Nevada for a similar scheme. He's a professional con man, Malone told me. Uses emotional manipulation, usually with exes who still have some lingering feelings or guilt he can exploit. My mother, in her infinite generosity, offered me her life insurance money. I refused immediately. I'm not taking your safety net, Mom. I'll figure this out. My boss offered an advance on my salary, which I reluctantly accepted just to cover immediate expenses. I moved into a cheap studio apartment and started taking weekend consulting jobs. About 2 weeks after I moved out, there was a knock on my door. Emma stood there, looking nothing like the confident nurse I'd married. Her face was gaunt, dark circles beneath her bloodshot eyes. I know you don't want to see me, she said quickly, as if afraid I'd slam the door. Here. She held out her hand, opening her palm to reveal her wedding ring. I can sell it, she whispered. It's a start, at least. Keep it, I said, my voice hollow, as a reminder of what you threw away. Her face crumpled, but I closed the door before she could respond. The police located Ryan's last known address, but found it abandoned. Credit card transactions showed he had purchased a ticket to Mexico the day after receiving our money. Emma moved in with her sister and took on extra shifts at the hospital. She opened a new bank account and set up an automatic transfer to me of $1,000 per month, which would take nearly 15 years to repay the full amount. A month after she left, I learned from her sister Jen that Ryan and Emma had secretly rekindled their relationship 2 months before the money request even came up. They'd met several times for coffee, then lunch, then dinner. I think she was confused, Jen said uncomfortably when she came to drop off some of my mail that had gone to their apartment. She didn't tell me much, but I got the impression she was having some kind of, midlife crisis, wondering about the path not taken. This revelation crushed any remaining sympathy I had for Emma's claims of just trying to help an ex in danger. I hired a lawyer and filed for divorce. When served with papers, Emma didn't contest anything, accepting full responsibility for the debt in the settlement. Malone, the PI, found evidence that Ryan had scammed at least 3 other women with similar stories of danger and urgent need for money. He had connections to underground gambling rings, but no evidence of actual threats against him. He's good, Malone admitted. Creates just enough truth to make the lies believable. 6 months after the theft, my life had completely transformed. I was living in a studio apartment half the size of our old place, working extra consulting jobs on weekends, and had emptied my retirement accounts despite the penalties. Emma continued to send money monthly, along with letters apologizing and updating me on her efforts to make amends. I left the envelopes unopened on my kitchen counter, a growing pile of remorse I couldn't bring myself to touch. At my lowest point, I drove to a casino an hour outside the city. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, then walked inside and got a player's card. I sat at a slot machine for hours, my last paycheck in my wallet, contemplating the desperate irony of gambling to win back money stolen by a gambler. In the end, I walked away without playing a single game. That same week, my mother was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. As an only child, the responsibility for helping her through treatment fell solely on me, with my now severely limited resources. One night, after 3 whiskeys and a particularly hard day at work, I called Emma. She answered immediately, as if she'd been waiting for my call all these months. "You didn't just steal my money," I said, the words pouring out. "You stole my future, my trust, my ability to ever believe in anyone again. You stole the home we were going to build, the security I worked 15 years for. You stole my peace of mind. You stole everything that mattered." She listened silently until I ran out of words. "I know," she finally whispered. I know. Before I hung up, she added, quietly, the police think they've located Ryan in Puerto Vallarta. 2 weeks later, Malone called with unexpected news. They got him, he said without preamble. Mexican authorities arrested Taylor trying to board a yacht with a new girlfriend. During questioning, he revealed something interesting. Most of your money is still in an offshore account. My breath caught. What? Apparently, he was planning to use it to invest in a beachfront property development. If the authorities can navigate the legal challenges, you might recover a significant portion of your savings. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. That same day, Emma's sister Jen texted me. You should know, Emma's been working 3 jobs, barely sleeping, making herself sick trying to save money faster to repay you. She's also been cooperating with authorities, giving them everything she knows about Ryan's contacts and habits. I'm worried about her. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure how to feel. The rage that had sustained me for months didn't disappear, but it dimmed slightly, complicated by this new information. A week later, I received a call from the lawyer handling the recovery of funds from Ryan's accounts. Both Emma and I needed to sign documents to proceed with claiming the money. We met at the lawyer's office downtown, our first face-to-face encounter in nearly 8 months. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. Emma had always been slender, but now she looked fragile, her clothes hanging loosely on her frame. The dark circles under her eyes had only deepened. Hello, Mark, she said softly. We sat across from each other at a conference table as the lawyer explained the process. When we both reached for a document at the same time, our hands briefly touched. Her fingers were ice cold. After signing everything, we stood awkwardly in the lobby. There's a coffee shop across the street, Emma said hesitantly. If you have a few minutes? I should have said no. Instead, I nodded. Over steaming cups we barely touched, Emma spoke carefully, as if each word had been rehearsed. I want you to know I'm not making excuses. What I did was unforgivable, and I take full responsibility. She wrapped her bony fingers around her mug. But I think you deserve to understand how it happened, if you want to hear it. I'm listening, I said. When Ryan first contacted me, it was innocent enough. A message saying he'd thought of me when he saw a nurse character in a movie. I should have blocked him, but I was curious, I guess. We met for coffee, and he seemed so different, mature. He talked about his businesses, his charity work. She took a shaky breath. It wasn't romantic, Mark, I swear. But there was a familiarity there, and I think I got caught up in nostalgic feelings. Not for him specifically, but for who I was back then. Young, with everything ahead of me. Were you unhappy with me? I asked, the question that had haunted me. No. That's what makes this so awful. I loved our life. I still do. Her voice cracked. But when he started telling me about these loan sharks, showing me pictures of himself beaten up, playing on what he knew about my parents losing everything to debt collectors, I panicked. All I could think was that someone was going to die if I didn't help. You could have told me, I said. I know I should have, but Ryan convinced me you wouldn't understand, that involving you would put you in danger too. She looked down. And maybe part of me was ashamed that I'd been talking to him at all. Did you ever really love me? I asked, the question escaping before I could stop it. Her eyes filled with tears. With everything I am. That's what makes this so unbearable. I destroyed the one thing I valued most, the life we were building together. She reached into her purse and pulled out her engagement ring. Please take this. Sell it. It's not much, but it's something. As she stood to leave, she paused. I didn't just destroy your dreams, Mark. I destroyed mine too. The life we were building was everything I wanted. I watched her walk away, the ring heavy in my palm. 3 months later, I received official word that $132,000 of my money had been recovered and would be returned after processing. It wasn't everything, but it was enough to restart my life, Around the same time, my mother's cancer went into remission, lifting a significant weight from my shoulders. I started seeing a therapist, working through my trust issues and explosive anger. She helped me understand that while Emma's actions were inexcusable, her manipulation by Ryan was real. Holding on to rage is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, my therapist said during one session. You can acknowledge the wrong done to you without letting it consume your future. 6 months after the meeting at the lawyer's office, I ran into Emma's friend Sarah at the grocery store. Emma moved to Boston, she told me. She took a position at a research hospital there. Pays better, so she can send you more each month. Is she doing okay? I found myself asking. Sarah's expression softened. She's surviving. Still determined to repay you in full, regardless of what was recovered from Ryan. She says it's the only way she can live with herself. That night, I finally opened one of Emma's letters, the most recent one. Inside, along with the usual check, was a journal entry she'd written. I think about the moment I transferred the money every day, she'd written, the way my hand shook as I confirmed the transaction. There was a voice screaming in my head to stop, but I ignored it. I betrayed not just Mark, but myself, and everything I believed in. The magnitude of what I've done hits me at random moments, in the grocery store, during a shift, as I'm falling asleep. I wonder if I'll ever forgive myself. I don't think I should. I sat with the letter for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. 2 years after the theft, I had rebuilt much of my life. With the recovered money and my savings from working extra hours, I'd purchased a smaller home than originally planned, but was proud of what I'd accomplished. My career had advanced, partly due to the dedication I'd poured into work during my darkest days. While at a medical conference in Chicago for my firm, I literally bumped into Emma in the hotel lobby. She was there with her research hospital team, a badge hanging around her neck. We both froze, the shock of seeing each other in this professional context, momentarily stripping away our painful history. "Mark," she breathed, looking as stunned as I felt. "Emma, hi," I managed, struggling to reconcile this composed professional woman with both my loving wife of memory and the broken figure from the coffee shop. "How are you?" she asked cautiously. "I'm good, actually." "You?" "Better than I was." A small, hesitant smile. "Are you here for the whole conference?" Somehow we ended up having dinner, sitting at a quiet corner table in the hotel restaurant. Both cautious but civil. Emma showed me a tracking app on her phone where she monitored the monthly payments to me, now totaling over $30,000. "I should have the full amount repaid by the time I'm 54, she said matter-of-factly, assuming no major financial setbacks. "You don't have to repay the full amount," I said. "We recovered most of it from Ryan." She shook her head firmly. "Yes, I do. It's not just about the money, Mark. It's about taking responsibility." I learned that Emma had been volunteering at a financial literacy program for women who had been victims of financial abuse, using her own story as a cautionary tale. "I can't undo what I did," she said, "but maybe I can help prevent someone else from making similar mistakes, or being victimized like I was." As we parted, she hesitated, then asked, "Are you seeing anyone?" "Not seriously," I admitted. "Trust doesn't come easily these days." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "That's my fault, and I'm sorry. But I hope someday you can trust again, Mark. You deserve that." Back home, I couldn't stop thinking about seeing Emma again. I realized that while I might never fully trust her again, holding on to my anger was preventing me from moving forward completely. I wrote her a letter explaining that while I couldn't forget what happened, I no longer wanted to live with bitterness. I acknowledged that Ryan was the primary villain, but reminded her that her choices had caused irreparable damage. In a significant gesture, I told Emma I was forgiving a portion of what she still owed me. Not all of it, that would dishonor my own loss, but enough to give her some hope of eventually being free of the debt before old age. "I'm not doing this for you," I wrote. "I'm doing it for me. I need to close this chapter to fully embrace whatever comes next in my life. 3 years after the theft, I stood in a bank lobby again, but this time I was closing on my new house, smaller than the one Emma and I had dreamed of, but entirely mine. My phone buzzed with a notification. Emma's monthly payment had arrived, right on schedule as it had been for 3 years without fail. Outside the bank, I ran into Paul, a colleague from work who was clearly besotted with a new girlfriend. He showed me pictures of them together, and I noticed something familiar about the woman's smile and body language. With a chill, I recognized the patterns of charm and manipulation I now understood were Ryan's hallmarks. Briefly, I considered warning Paul, but realized he would likely not believe me, just as I wouldn't have believed anyone warning me about Emma years ago. Instead, I suggested we meet for coffee soon, deciding to keep an eye on the situation without interfering directly. That evening in my new home, I received a small package from Emma. Inside was a framed quote: "Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair." With it was a note saying simply, "I will never stop trying to repair what I broke. Thank you for teaching me that redemption starts with accepting consequences." I placed the frame on a shelf in my home office, not prominently displayed, but not hidden away either. It served as a reminder of the hardest lesson I'd ever learned, that sometimes the people we trust most completely are capable of the deepest betrayal, but that surviving such betrayal reveals strengths we never knew we had. Later that week, I locked up my house before heading out to meet a woman for our third date. I was moving cautiously but optimistically into my future, forever changed but not defeated by the past. The savings account I'd started rebuilding had a modest balance, but it was growing steadily. My mother's health remained good. My career was thriving. As I drove, I thought about trust, how freely I'd given it once, how carefully I guarded it now. I thought about Emma, still faithfully sending payments each month, still trying to atone for a mistake that had defined both our lives. The betrayal had cost me nearly everything, but standing in the wreckage, I'd discovered something valuable: resilience. The knowledge that I could lose it all and still rebuild, that even after the worst betrayal, life continues. Different, certainly. Scarred, absolutely. But not ended. And there was a certain freedom in that knowledge, a hard-won wisdom I carried with me into whatever came next.